Sometimes you don't know what you got till it's gone. Here's the reality. Consumers are selective. Even when a person is open to all genres of media, it's in our nature to be selective. There's just too much stuff out there for just one person. So naturally, when it comes to animation, sometimes a good show or two can pass us by. Today, I'm going to be listing, in no particular order, 5 shows that I, for lack of a better word, missed. The only requirement for this list is that a show has to be in production while I was alive, so shows that I missed because they ended before I was born don't count. So let's get started. Number 5. Digimon. The first 5 seasons. Wait, Sketchy, isn't the Digimon series technically still running? Yeah, kinda. But since the seasons of Digimon are isolated stories, they technically count. When I got into this series, Data Squad was over for quite a while, and Cross Wars aka Fusion was still a ways away. The Pokemon anime was in the Diamond and Pearl arc, and I really didn't like it, especially compared to the advanced generation. So I was looking for something to take its place, and the first thing that came to mind was, of course, Digimon. After learning that I could pretty much watch each series in any order, I watched Tamers first, then Data Squad, then Frontier, then the Adventure series. And when I was done, I realized something. This show kills the Pokemon anime. The method of changing the tone and cast with each series keeps the show fresh, and it keeps characters from being worn out beyond belief. I'm looking at you, Ash. Digimon was the series that kickstarted my interest in exploring more story-focused cartoons, and it opened the door for the other cartoons on this list. Number 4. Young Justice. I was never into traditional superhero stories growing up. The only exceptions I ever made were Teen Titans and Static Shock, and even then I only watched those shows whenever they happened to be on. So when Young Justice first premiered in 2010, I didn't bother to watch it, and when I heard all the outcry about its abrupt cancellation, I wondered what the big deal was. Was the show really that good? Now that I'm slowly exposing myself to more superhero stories and have finally started watching Young Justice, I can confidently say that yes, it is that good. I'm still watching it, but I've already been spoiled about the ending, and yeah, having it cancelled was a dumb move on Cartoon Network's part, especially considering the reason. Young Justice was a good show, and it'll really be missed. Number 3. Avatar: The Last Airbender. Another story-focused show with action as one of its main features. Notice a trend here? When Avatar first came out, 7-year-old me was interested at first, but grew really bored after the first couple of episodes. The majority of Book 1, the majority, not all of it, wasn't all that great, and it's an opinion that I hold to this very day. But after catching a few reruns of Book 2 and 3 on Nicktoons shortly after the show ended, I became interested again. And looking back on it, it was definitely worth going through Book 1 to see what the rest of the series had to offer. And I was happy to know that I wasn't the only one that thought The Great Divide was the worst episode. Even the creators refused to acknowledge it in the series recap. Not only did I enjoy this show, but even my dad named his dog after the best character in the series. I'm kinda sad that I wasn't able to experience it with everyone else as it was airing, but at least I'm able to appreciate it now. Oh, and if you really like this series, you've got to read the post-finale comics. They offer a lot of insight into how the world develops after Ozai's defeat, and one story reveals what happened to Zuko's mom. If that's not a good reason to get into these comics, I don't know what is. Number 2. Danny Phantom. So here we have a toon that wasn't just a superhero show, but also a supernatural show. So it took me even longer to actually watch it. I did watch the first 10 episodes when I was a kid, but then I kinda fell out of it until a couple months ago when I found it on Hulu. Yeah, it took me a minute to actually watch the rest of this show. Now that I have, I kinda regret not sticking with it. A common thing that I hear from fans of the series is that it should have lasted longer, but I'd have to disagree. Sure, it sucks to see something end, but for Danny Phantom it ended at the right time. It wasn't too long or too short. The one thing that left a bad taste in my mouth about the ending was that there was no real closure between Danny and Valerie. No, I'm not talking about their romance, I'm talking about their rivalry. For almost the entire series, Valerie fought against Danny without even knowing who he really was. Yeah, she found out at the end of the series when he reveals his identity to the world, but she was an important character, and I feel that her finding out should have been an isolated event prior to the finale. But hey, it's still an awesome show, and I am still kicking myself for not watching it sooner. Number 1. Hey Arnold. Well, this entry sticks out like a sore thumb. Hey Arnold was one of the less popular Nicktoons of the 90s. It didn't have the imagination of Rugrats, or the adrenaline of Rocket Power, or the adventure of the Wild Thornberrys, or the surrealism of Cat Dog. Comparatively, it was the most grounded Nicktoon at the time, but I think that was one of its strengths. One thing this series had that most other Nicktoons didn't have at the time was a large cast of well-rounded characters. The show was dedicated to developing its secondary characters, and it even gave some of them their own episodes without having the main characters be a major part of it. Something I wish a certain other show did a little bit better. Sometimes they'd even go into the backstories of certain characters, like Mr. Win, who gave up his daughter so she wouldn't have to live through the Vietnam War. You know what episode that was in? The Christmas special. Yeah, this show went there. Like Young Justice though, this show had a rather unsatisfying ending. A recurring mystery in Hey Arnold was what happened to Arnold's parents. The final episode of the series ends with Arnold finding a map to where his parents were, and he goes to tell his grandparents about it. And that's it. There was supposed to be a movie that wrapped everything up, yes, including that, but sadly, because the first movie didn't do as well as other Nickelodeon movies, they decided to cancel it. Now, Craig Bartlett still wants to make this movie, and he's recently renewed his relationship with Nickelodeon, so there's still a chance. A very slim one, yes, but still a chance. So, judging from most of the entries on this list, it's pretty obvious that I didn't really get into the more story-oriented shows until I was a bit older. But, in the end, I'm sure we can all agree on one thing. Thank God for online streaming. So what did you think of this list? What were some cartoons that you didn't get into until after they ended? Let me know in the comments below, or hit me up on Tumblr. And consider supporting me on Patreon, or commissioning me for art via PayPal. Until next time, keep it sketchy, folks.